The icy awakening. The cold was the first thing John felt. It crept into his bones, making him shiver. His eyes opened slowly, blinking against the bright lights above. Where was he? This wasn't his bedroom. John tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy. He looked around, seeing strange walls covered in blinking lights. This place looked like something from a sci-fi movie. Then it hit him. This wasn't a dream. Suddenly, a hiss filled the air. John turned his head to see a pod next to him opening. A woman with long dark hair sat up, looking just as confused as he felt. Their eyes met, both filled with questions. "What's going on?" the woman asked, her voice shaky. Before John could answer, more pods started to open. Men and women of all ages began to wake up, each looking lost and scared. An old man with a white beard stood up, steadying himself against his pod. "I remember," he said, his voice sad. "Earth, it's gone." Those words hit John like a punch to the gut. Memories flooded back. The alien ships, the attacks, the rush to escape. Earth, their beautiful blue planet, destroyed by invaders from the stars. "How long?" John asked, afraid to hear the answer. A screen on the wall lit up. Numbers flashed across it, then settled. 3,000 years. Gasps filled the room. 3,000 years had passed since they left Earth. Everyone they knew, everything they loved, was long gone. "Why are we here?" a young woman asked, tears in her eyes. The old man walked to the center of the room. "We're the last humans," he said, "chosen to survive, to rebuild, and," he paused, his eyes growing hard, "to get revenge." A soldier named Mike pushed through the crowd. In his hand, he held a small device. "I found this in my pod," he said. "It has a message." Mike pressed a button, and a hologram appeared. An old woman's face looked at them, her eyes filled with determination. "If you're seeing this," the hologram said, "it means Earth is lost. But hope isn't. You carry humanity's legacy and our secret weapons." The message continued, explaining how Earth's best scientists had worked in secret. They created advanced technology hidden from the aliens. Now it was up to this group to use these tools and fight back. "Avenge us," the hologram said before fading away. The room was quiet for a moment. Then voices started to rise. Some people were scared, others angry. A few cried, mourning the world they'd lost. John stood up, his legs shaky. He looked around at the faces of his fellow survivors. They were all that was left of humanity. A mix of emotions swirled inside him. Sadness for what they'd lost, fear of what lay ahead, and a burning desire for justice. "We need to explore this place," John said, his voice stronger than he felt. "Figure out where we are and what we have." Mike nodded, hefting a large gun he'd found. "Agreed. We don't know if we're safe here." The group began to move, checking the room for exits. They found a large door, sealed tight. After some searching, they discovered a panel that opened it. Beyond the door lay a vast hall. The walls were made of a strange, shimmering material. Lights pulsed along the floor, as if guiding them forward. "This doesn't look like human technology," the old man said, running his hand along the wall. "It's not," a woman named Sarah replied. She had been a scientist back on Earth. "This must be an alien structure. But why are we here?" They continued down the hall, their footsteps echoing. Strange symbols covered the walls, unlike any language they knew. The air felt different too, cleaner, somehow. At the end of the hall, they found another room. This one was filled with pods, similar to the ones they'd woken up in. But these pods were different. They hummed with energy, and inside each one was weapons, Mike said, his eyes wide. Advanced weapons. The pods contained all sorts of devices. Guns that looked like they could shoot lasers, suits of armor that seemed to shift and change, and things they couldn't even begin to understand. Sarah examined one of the devices. "This technology, It's incredible, far beyond anything we had on Earth. John picked up what looked like a simple wristband. As soon as he put it on, a holographic display appeared above it. Information scrolled by, too fast for him to read. "Look!" someone shouted. They all turned to see a large screen coming to life on the wall. An image appeared, a 3D map of the galaxy. A red dot pulsed in one corner. "Is that us?" John asked. Sarah nodded. "I think so. We're in a different part of the galaxy, far from Earth." The map zoomed in, showing their location in more detail. They were on some kind of space station, orbiting a strange purple planet. Suddenly, the screen changed. A face appeared. Not human, but not quite alien either. It spoke, its voice sounding both familiar and foreign at the same time. "Greetings, children of Earth," it said. "I am the Guardian Eye, created to watch over you during your long sleep. Now that you're awake, it's time to begin your training." The AI explained that they were on a hidden base, built by a secret group of humans and friendly aliens. Its purpose was to give humanity a second chance. "The ones who destroyed your world still exist," the AI said. "They've grown stronger, but so have we. Are you ready to learn? Ready to fight? Ready to take back what was lost?" John looked around at the others. He saw fear in some faces, determination in others. They had all lost everything. But now, they had a chance to make things right. "We're ready," John said, speaking for all of them. The AI nodded. "Then let us begin. The fate of humanity rests in your hands." As the AI started to explain their situation in more detail, John felt a mix of emotions. Sadness for the world they'd lost, fear of the challenges ahead, but also a growing sense of hope. They had survived. They had advanced technology. And they had a purpose. The last humans were awake, and they were ready to take on the galaxy. Hidden Arsenal. The Guardian A's voice echoed through the room. "Your training begins now," it said. The humans looked at each other, a mix of excitement and fear on their faces. John stepped forward. "What's first?" he asked. The AI responded by making a section of the wall slide open. Behind it was a room filled with strange machines. "Physical conditioning," the AI said. "Your bodies have been asleep for 3,000 years. We must make you strong again." For the next few days, the humans worked hard. They ran on treadmills that changed gravity. They lifted weights that got heavier or lighter without warning. It was tough, but they could feel themselves getting stronger every day. Sarah, the scientist, spent her free time studying the alien technology. "It's amazing," she told John one evening. "Some of this stuff seems to break the laws of physics as we knew them." Mike the soldier focused on combat training. The AI taught him new fighting styles, mixing human techniques with alien moves. "I'll be ready when we face those destroyers," he said, punching a holographic target. As the days passed, the humans grew stronger and smarter. But they also grew restless. They wanted to do more than just train. One morning, John woke up to find a new door in their living area. "What's this?" he asked the AI. "You're ready for the next step," the AI replied. "Go through the door." John called the others, and together they stepped through. On the other side was a massive room, bigger than anything they'd seen before. It was filled with weapons, vehicles, and gadgets of all kinds. "Wow," Mike whispered, his eyes wide. The AI's voice came from speakers around the room. "This is humanity's hidden arsenal," it said. "Created in secret, hidden from the destroyers. Now, it's yours to use." The humans spread out, examining the amazing technology. Sarah found a device that could create small force fields. Mike discovered a gun that fired plasma bolts. John picked up a small cube that, when activated, turned into a flying drone. "How do we learn to use all this?" John asked. In response, a hologram appeared in the center of the room. It looked like a practice area, with targets and obstacles. "Let's begin," the AI said. For the next few weeks, the humans trained hard with their new tools. They learned to fly small spaceships, use energy weapons, and operate advanced computers. It was difficult, but also exciting. One day, while practicing with a holographic spaceship, John noticed something odd. "Hey, Sarah," he called out. "Come look at this." Sarah walked over, wiping sweat from her forehead. "What is it?" John pointed to a small symbol on the ship's control panel. "Doesn't this look familiar?" Sarah leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "It does. It looks like one of the symbols we saw on the station walls when we first woke up." They called the others over. Soon, everyone was searching for more of these symbols. They found them everywhere, on weapons, in computer code, even on their new uniforms. John said, "What do these symbols mean?" There was a long pause before the AI answered. "Those symbols," it said slowly, "are not part of my original programming. They appeared 1,000 years ago." The humans looked at each other in surprise. "What happened 1,000 years ago?" Mike asked. "I don't know," the AI replied. It sounded confused, which was strange for an artificial intelligence. "My records for that time are blank." This revelation sparked a new mission for the humans. While they continued their training, they also started investigating this mystery. Sarah led a team to study the station's computers. Mike and his group searched every corner of the station for clues. John found himself thinking about it all the time. What had happened 1,000 years ago? Who had added these symbols? And why couldn't the AI remember? One night, unable to sleep, John wandered into the arsenal room. He walked among the amazing weapons and vehicles, running his hand along their smooth surfaces. He stopped in front of a large spaceship, big enough for their whole group. As he studied it, something caught his eye. Near the ship's engine was a small panel, almost hidden from view. John opened it and gasped. Inside was a data chip, old and worn. With shaking hands, John took the chip to a computer terminal. He inserted it, holding his breath. The screen flickered, then came to life. A video began to play. On it was a face John recognized. The old woman from the first hologram message they'd seen when they woke up. "If you're seeing this," she said, "it means you've discovered our little secret." She smiled, but looked sad. "We didn't just leave you weapons. We left you a mission." The woman explained that 1,000 years ago, a small group of humans had woken up. They had worked in secret, improving the weapons and technology. They had even made contact with some alien races who opposed the destroyers. "But we knew we weren't ready," the woman said. "The destroyers were too strong. So we went back to sleep, leaving you this message. You are humanity's last hope. Use what we've created, find our alien allies, and take back what's ours." The video ended, leaving John staring at a blank screen. His mind was racing. They weren't just survivors. They were humanity's secret weapon, created and improved over thousands of years. John ran to wake the others. As he rushed through the station, he felt a new energy flowing through him. They had a purpose now, a real mission, and they had the tools to complete it. As the group gathered to watch the video, John looked at their faces. He saw shock, excitement, and determination. They were no longer lost survivors. They were warriors, ready to fight for Earth. The AI's voice came over the speakers. "Now you know the truth," it said. "Are you ready for your real training to begin?" John stood up, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. "We're ready," he said. "Let's save humanity." As the group cheered, John felt a mix of emotions. Fear of the challenges ahead, excitement for the adventures to come, and a burning desire to face the destroyers and reclaim their lost home. The real mission was about to begin. The first strike. Months had passed since the humans discovered their true purpose. They trained harder than ever, pushing themselves to master the advanced technology left by their ancestors. John stood at the helm of their spaceship, the Avenger. His hands moved confidently over the controls. Behind him, his team prepared for their first real mission. Everyone ready, John called out. Mike checked his plasma rifle one last time. Ready to kick some alien butt, he grinned. Sarah tapped away at a holographic screen. All systems are go, she reported. The cloaking device is active. The AI's voice came through the ship's speakers. Remember your mission, it said. This is a stealth operation. Get in, gather intelligence, and get out. John nodded. Understood. All right, team, let's move out. The Avenger glided silently out of the hidden base. As they entered open space, John felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was it, their first step towards avenging Earth. Their target was a small destroyer outpost on a nearby moon. The AI had detected unusual activity there. It might hold valuable information about the destroyer's current operations. As they approached the moon, Sarah gasped. John, look at this, she said, pointing to her screen. John looked over. The moon's surface was covered in strange, pulsing lines. They formed complex patterns, like a giant circuit board. What is it? John asked. Sarah shook her head. I'm not sure, but it's putting out massive amounts of energy. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Warning, the AI said. Unknown energy signature detected. It's interfering with our cloaking device. John's heart raced. Can you fix it? Negative, the AI replied. The interference is too strong. Mike jumped to his feet. They're going to spot us. John thought fast. They couldn't abort now. This might be their only chance. New plan, he said. We're going in hot. He pushed the ship into a steep dive towards the moon's surface. The Avenger shook as it entered the atmosphere. There, Sarah pointed. A group of buildings sat in a crater, surrounded by the glowing lines. John aimed for a clear spot near the buildings. Hang on, he shouted. The ship hit the ground hard, skidding to a stop. Alarms wailed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Everyone okay? John coughed. His team groaned but gave thumbs up. They were shaken but alive. John thought fast. They couldn't abort now. This might be their only chance. New plan, he said. We're going in hot. He pushed the ship into a steep dive towards the moon's surface. The Avenger shook as it entered the atmosphere. There, Sarah pointed. A group of buildings sat in a crater, surrounded by the glowing lines. John aimed for a clear spot near the buildings. Hang on, he shouted. The ship hit the ground hard, skidding to a stop. Alarms wailed. Smoke filled the cockpit. Everyone okay? John coughed. His team groaned but gave thumbs up. They were shaken but alive. We need to move, Mike said, already heading for the exit. They'll be coming to check out the crash. The team grabbed their gear and rushed out of the ship. The air was thin but breathable. Strange, glowing dust swirled around their feet. They ran towards the nearest building. It was sleek and metallic, with no visible doors or windows. Sarah pulled out a device and ran it along the wall. There's an opening mechanism here, she said. Her fingers danced over the device. With a soft hiss, a section of the wall slid open. They ducked inside just as they heard the whine of approaching vehicles. The interior was dimly lit. Strange machines lined the walls, blinking and humming. What is this place? John wondered aloud. Before anyone could answer, they heard footsteps. The team quickly hid behind some large containers. Two aliens walked into view. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large, dark eyes. They spoke in a language of clicks and whistles. Sarah activated her translator. The aliens' words became clear. Don't understand why the humans haven't attacked yet, one was saying. It's been 3,000 years. Perhaps they all died in sleep, the other replied. No matter. The energy harvester is almost complete. Soon, we'll have enough power to wipe out any resistance in the galaxy. John's eyes widened. Energy harvester. Was that what the lines on the moon's surface were for? Suddenly, Mike's foot slipped. A small tool clattered to the floor. The alien spun around, their eyes scanning the room. "Intruders," one shouted. "So much for stealth," Mike muttered. He stood up, plasma rifle raised. "Freeze, you ugly space squids." Chaos erupted. The aliens drew weapons of their own. Energy bolts flew across the room. John and his team fought back. Their training paid off. They moved like a well-oiled machine, covering each other and taking down targets. But more aliens were pouring in. They were outnumbered. "We need to get out of here," Sarah yelled over the noise. John spotted a computer terminal. "Cover me," he shouted. He ran to the terminal, dodging energy blasts. He plugged in a data stick the AI had given them. Come on," he muttered. The screen flashed. Data began downloading. An energy bolt hit the wall next to John's head. He ducked, feeling the heat singe his hair. "John, we gotta go," Mike shouted. The data stick blinked green. Download complete. John grabbed it and ran. The team fought their way back to the entrance. The door was blocked by aliens. Sarah pulled out a small sphere. "Fire in the hole," she yelled, throwing it. The sphere exploded in a blinding flash. The aliens stumbled, stunned. "Now," John ordered. They burst out of the building, running for their ship. Alarms wailed across the compound. The Avenger came into view. Its hull was scorched from the crash, but it looked flyable. They piled in. John jumped into the pilot's seat, his hands flying over the controls. The engines roared to life. Just as they lifted off, energy blasts peppered the ship's hull. "Hang on," John yelled. He pushed the ship to full power. They shot into the sky, breaking through the moon's atmosphere. Behind them, alien ships were taking off in pursuit. "We've got company," Mike shouted. John gritted his teeth. Not for long. He activated the Avenger's secret weapon. The ship shimmered, then vanished from view. The alien ships slowed, confused. Their prey had disappeared. Inside the invisible Avenger, the team breathed a sigh of relief. "Did we get what we came for?" Sarah asked. John held up the data stick. "We sure did. And more." As they flew back to their hidden base, John thought about what they'd learned. The destroyers were building some kind of massive energy weapon. The fate of the galaxy could be at stake. Their first mission was a success, but John knew this was just the beginning. The real fight was yet to come. As the stars streaked by, John made a silent promise. They would stop the destroyers. They would avenge Earth, and they would make humanity a force to be reckoned with once again. The first strike was over. Now, the real war could begin. The Avenger docked smoothly in the hidden base. As soon as the airlock sealed, John and his team were met by a crowd of excited humans. "How did it go?" someone shouted. John held up the data stick. "Mission accomplished," he said with a tired smile. Cheers erupted. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity had struck back against the destroyers. But there was no time to celebrate. John, Sarah, and Mike headed straight to the command center. The AI was waiting for them. "Well done, team," the AI said. "Let's see what you've brought us." Sarah plugged in the data stick. Immediately, the room's holographic display came to life. Strange symbols and diagrams filled the air around them. "What are we looking at?" John asked. Sarah's fingers flew over the controls. "It's incredible," she said. "The destroyers aren't just building a weapon. They're trying to harvest energy from the fabric of space itself." Mike whistled. "That sounds bad." "It is," the AI confirmed. "If they succeed, they could wipe out entire star systems with a single blast." John felt a chill run down his spine. "How do we stop them?" Before the AI could answer, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed throughout the base. "What now?" Mike groaned, raising his weapon. The AI's voice was urgent. "Unknown ship approaching. It's not destroyer design." John tensed. Had they been followed? "Battle stations," he ordered. But then the AI spoke again, sounding confused. Wait, I'm receiving a transmission. It can't be. What is it? Sarah asked. It's an old Earth code, the AI said. One used by the humans who woke up 1,000 years ago. John's heart raced. Put it through. A voice crackled over the speakers. It wasn't human, but it wasn't the harsh sounds of the destroyers either. Greetings, children of Earth, the voice said. We come in peace. We are the Starborn, allies of your ancestors. We've been waiting a long time for you to wake up. The humans looked at each other in shock. Allies? There were others out there fighting the destroyers. John stepped forward. This is John, leader of the human resistance. We're glad to meet you. But how can we trust you? The voice chuckled. Caution is wise, young one. Allow us to dock, and we'll show you proof of our alliance. After a tense discussion, John agreed. The unknown ship was allowed to dock in a secure bay. John, Sarah, and Mike went to meet their visitors, backed up by a squad of armed humans. The ship's airlock opened with a hiss. Out stepped a being unlike anything they'd ever seen. It was tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like starlight. Its eyes were deep and wise, seeming to hold the vastness of space within them. I am Zara, the being said, bowing slightly, ambassador of the Starborn. We have much to discuss. Over the next few hours, Zara revealed an astonishing truth. The Starborn were an ancient race that had fought the destroyers for millennia. They had allied with the humans who woke 1,000 years ago, helping them improve their technology. But why didn't you wake us up sooner? John asked. Zara's expression turned sad. We wanted to, but the destroyers grew too powerful. We had to go into hiding, gathering strength. We've been waiting for the right moment, and for you to be ready. Sarah leaned forward. The energy harvester the destroyers are building. Can you help us stop it? Zara nodded. That's why we're here. We've discovered the location of their main base. With your help, we can end this threat once and for all. Excitement rippled through the room. This was more than they could have hoped for. But Mike looked skeptical. It sounds too good to be true. How do we know this isn't a trap? Zara smiled. A fair question. She pulled out a small device and activated it. A hologram appeared, showing a recorded message. John gasped. It was the old woman from the hidden message they'd found before. If you're seeing this, the recording said, it means the Starborn have found you. Trust them. They've been our allies and friends. Together, we can reclaim our future. The hologram faded. The room was silent. John stood up. All right, he said. We're in. What's the plan? Zara's eyes glittered. We strike at the heart of the destroyer's operation. But first, we need to gather more allies. She explained that there were other races oppressed by the destroyers. With the element of surprise, they could build a coalition to take on their common enemy. It won't be easy, Zora warned. We'll be racing against time. If the destroyers complete their weapon, all will be lost. John looked at his team. He saw determination in their eyes. They had trained for this. They were ready. When do we start? He asked. Zara smiled. Now. Over the next few days, the base was a flurry of activity. The Starborn shared their advanced technology, upgrading the humans' weapons and ships. John and his team prepared for their most daring mission yet. They would travel to distant worlds, seeking allies for the coming battle. As John stood on the bridge of the upgraded Avenger, he felt a mix of emotions. Fear of the unknown, excitement for the adventure ahead, and hope that they could actually win this war. Sarah joined him, looking out at the stars. It's funny, she said. A week ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're about to visit alien worlds. John nodded. Everything's changed, but our mission remains the same. We fight for Earth, for humanity. Mike walked up, checking his new Starborn enhanced rifle. And this time, we got some badass backup. Zara's voice came over the comm. "Are you ready, humans?" John took a deep breath. He thought of Earth, destroyed but not forgotten. He thought of the future they were fighting for. "We're ready," he said. "Let's go save the galaxy." The Avengers' engines hummed to life. With a flash of light, it disappeared into the depths of space. The battle for the future had begun, and humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. The Avenger dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of light. John, Sarah, and Mike stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen in awe. Before them floated a massive space station, its twisted metal arms reaching out like a giant metal spider. "That's the destroyer's main base," Mike whispered, his voice filled with a mix of fear and excitement. Zara nodded, her starlight skin shimmering. The heart of their empire, and the location of their great weapon. Over the past few weeks, John and his team had traveled to distant worlds, gathering allies for their cause. They had met the rock-like granite people, the telepathic whisper clouds, and the shape-shifting Mirrorkin. Each race had suffered under the destroyer's rule, and each had joined the growing rebellion. Now, their combined fleet hung in space, just out of the destroyer's sensor range. It was time for the final push. "Remember the plan," John said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "We sneak in, disable their defenses, and open the way for our allies." Sarah tapped at her console, bringing up a holographic map of the station. "I've identified the best entry point," she said, pointing to a small docking bay. "It's rarely used and lightly guarded." "Good work," John nodded. He turned to Zara. "Are the other teams ready?" The Starborn's eyes twinkled like distant galaxies. "They await your signal, John of Earth. The fate of the universe rests in your hands." "No pressure," John thought. The Avenger glided silently towards the station, its starborn cloaking technology hiding it from the destroyer's sensors. As they approached the docking bay, John felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. This was it. No room for mistakes. With a soft thud, the ship attached to the station. Alarms blared for a moment, then fell silent as Sarah hacked into the system. "We're in," she whispered. The team moved quickly through the dimly lit corridors of the station. Strange symbols covered the walls, pulsing with an eerie light. The air felt thick and heavy, as if the very atmosphere was trying to push them back. As they turned a corner, they came face to face with a pair of destroyer guards. For a moment, both sides froze in surprise. Then all hell broke loose. Energy bolts filled the air. Mike dove forward, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge the blasts. His own weapon fired, taking down one guard in a flash of light. John rolled to the side, coming up with his pistol raised. He fired twice, and the second guard fell. "So much for stealth," Sarah muttered, already working to disable the station's internal sensors. They pushed on, fighting their way deeper into the station. The destroyers were everywhere, their alien forms a twisted mix of metal and flesh. But John's team had surprise on their side, and their advanced weapons cut through the enemy's defenses. Finally, they'd reached the central control room. The doors were sealed shut, a complex locking mechanism glowing with strange energy. "I can crack it," Sarah said, pulling out her hacking tools. "But it'll take time." "Time we don't have," Mike growled, pointing down the corridor where alarms were starting to blare. John thought fast. He pulled out a small device Zora had given him, a gift from the whisper clouds. "Stand back," he ordered. He pressed the device against the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like 1,000 whispers, the door simply faded away. "Remind me to thank our new friends," Mike said with a grin. They burst into the control room, weapons raised. But instead of more guards, they found a single figure standing before a massive view screen. The being turned, and John felt his blood run cold. It was like looking at a twisted reflection of humanity. Humanoid in shape, but wrong in a way that made his skin crawl. "So," the being said, its voice a harsh rasp, The lost children of Earth have finally come home. John's grip tightened on his weapon. "We're here to stop you," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Your reign of terror ends today." The destroyer leader laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Stop us, foolish human. We are not your enemy. We are your salvation." With a wave of its hand, the view screen came to life. It showed images of Earth, but not as John remembered it. This Earth was dying, its resources depleted, its people at war with each other. "Your kind was destroying itself," the destroyer said. "We saved you from extinction by destroying our world." Sarah shouted, her voice filled with rage. The being shook its head. "By giving you a chance to start over, to become something greater." John felt his resolve waver. Could it be true? Had they misunderstood everything? But then he remembered the worlds they had visited, the suffering they had seen, the allies who had placed their trust in humanity. "No," John said, his voice growing stronger. "You're lying. You're not saviors. You're conquerors." The destroyer's eyes narrowed. "Then you choose extinction." It lunged forward with inhuman speed. John fired, but the beam dodged, its form blurring. Mike charged in, his enhanced strength allowing him to grapple with the creature. They crashed into consoles, sparks flying. Sarah raced to a control panel. "I'm shutting down their defenses," she shouted over the sound of battle. John joined the fight, but the destroyer was incredibly strong. It threw Mike across the room, then turned on John. As they fought, John saw Sarah working frantically at the controls. Suddenly, the station shuddered. "It's done," Sarah yelled. "Our allies are attacking." The destroyer snarled, realizing it had been outmaneuvered. With a last burst of strength, it shoved John away and raced for an escape pod. "Stop it," John shouted, but it was too late. The pod ejected, carrying the destroyer leader away from the battle. Alarms blared throughout the station. On the view screen, they could see their allied fleet engaging the destroyer ships. "We did it," Mike said, picking himself up with a groan. "We gave our friends a fighting chance." John nodded, but his mind was racing. The destroyer's words echoed in his head. Had they really saved humanity? Or was it all a lie? As the station rocked from explosions, John made a decision. "Let's finish this," he said. "For Earth, for all the world suffering under destroyer rule." They raced back to the Avenger, dodging panicking destroyer troops. As they lifted off, John took one last look at the massive station. Whatever the truth about Earth's past, he knew their path forward. They would free the galaxy from the destroyer's grip. They would find a new home for humanity. And someday, somehow, they would uncover the whole truth about their past. The Avenger joined the battle, its weapons blazing. The war for the future of the galaxy had truly begun. The battle raged across the star system. John watched from the Avenger's bridge as Allied ships clashed with the destroyer fleet. Explosions bloomed silently in the vacuum of space, beautiful and terrifying. "We're winning," Mike said, his voice filled with awe. "We're actually winning." But John couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in his gut. The destroyer leader's words echoed in his mind. Had they really saved humanity from itself? Sarah's voice cut through his thoughts. "John, we've got a problem," she said, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in the destroyer's main station." Sarah's eyes widened. "They're activating the weapon," she said. "If it fires, it could wipe out our entire fleet." John's mind raced. They were so close to victory. They couldn't lose now. "Options?" he asked. Sarah shook her head. "We can't destroy it from out here. The station's shields are too strong." "Then we go in," John said, his jaw set with determination. "We take it out from the inside." Mike grinned. "Now you're talking my language." Zora looked concerned. "It's too dangerous. The station will be crawling with destroyers." John met her starry gaze. "We don't have a choice. It's this or watch everything we've fought for turn to dust." The Starborn nodded slowly. Very well, but you will not go alone. She tapped a communication device on her wrist. Grok, whisper, we need you. Moments later, two beings materialized on the bridge. One was a massive, rocky figure, Grok of the Granite People. The other was a shimmering, cloud-like form, Whisper of the Whisper Clouds. We fight with humans, Grok grumbled, his voice like grinding boulders. Whisper's form rippled. Your thoughts are brave, it said in a voice like a gentle breeze. We will help you succeed. John nodded, feeling the surge of gratitude for their alien allies. Let's do this. The Avenger swooped towards the destroyer station, dodging energy blasts and debris. With a bone-jarring thud, they docked at a damaged airlock. Remember, John said as they prepared to board, we're looking for the main reactor. We plant the bombs, then we get out. Fast. They burst onto the station, immediately met by a squad of destroyer troops. But this time, they were ready. Grok charged forward, energy blasts bouncing harmlessly off his stone skin. He smashed into the destroyers, sending them flying. Whisper flowed around another group, its misty form confusing and disorienting them. The destroyers fired wildly, hitting each other in their confusion. John, Sarah, and Mike pushed forward, their weapons blazing. They fought their way deeper into the station, following Sarah's directions to the main reactor. As they ran down a corridor, John saw something that made him skid to a halt. Through a viewing window, he saw a massive chamber filled with what looked like sleep pods, and in those pods were humans. What the? Mike breathed, his eyes wide. Sarah scanned the pods with her device. They're alive, she said, her voice shaking. There are thousands of them. John felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. The destroyer was telling the truth, he whispered. They didn't kill everyone on Earth. They saved them. A harsh laugh made them spin around. The destroyer leader stood at the end of the corridor, its twisted form silhouetted against the emergency lights. Finally, you understand, it said. We are not the monsters you think we are. John raised his weapon, but doubt made his hand shake. Why? He demanded. Why do all this? The destroyer moved closer, its movements unnaturally smooth. Your world was dying. Your people were killing each other, destroying your planet. We had seen it happen to countless races before. We couldn't let it happen again. So you decided to play God. Sarah spat. To decide who lives and who dies. The being's eyes flashed. We decided to give humanity a second chance. A chance to evolve beyond its primitive ways. John's mind was reeling. Everything they had believed, everything they had fought for, was it all based on a lie? But then he remembered the worlds they had visited, the suffering they had seen. What about the other races? He asked. The ones you've enslaved and oppressed. The destroyer waved a dismissive hand. Necessary sacrifices for the greater good. Some must suffer so that others may thrive. And in that moment, John understood. The destroyers might not be the pure evil they had believed, but they were still wrong. Their methods, their belief that they had the right to decide the fate of entire species, it had to be stopped. No, John said, his resolve hardening. You don't get to make that choice. Not for us, not for anyone. He fired, the energy blast catching the destroyer off guard. It stumbled back, surprise on its alien features. Grok. Whisper. John shouted into his communicator. Change of plans. We need to evacuate these sleep pods. All of them. But the reactor. Sarah started. John shook his head. We're not here to destroy anymore. We're here to save lives. As Grok and Whisper acknowledged the new orders, the team raced to the control room for the sleep chamber. Sarah's fingers flew over the alien controls, starting the wake-up process for the thousands of frozen humans. Alarms blared throughout the station. The destroyer fleet, realizing something was wrong, began to break off their attack to return to the station. We're out of time, Mike growled, firing at approaching destroyer troops. John made a quick decision. Sarah, Can you broadcast a message to the entire station? She nodded, tapping a few more controls. John took a deep breath and began to speak, his voice echoing through every corridor and chamber of the massive structure. Attention all beings on this station. We are not your enemy. We're here to free you. The destroyers have lied to you, manipulated you, but it's time for the truth. It's time for freedom. As his words rang out, something incredible happened. Destroyer troops began to lower their weapons. Enslaved aliens turned on their captors. And humans, just awakening from their long sleep, stumbled out of their pods, confusion and hope warring on their faces. In the chaos that followed, John and his team worked tirelessly to evacuate as many people as they could. Allied ships docked with the station, taking on refugees of all species. As the last transport prepared to leave, John took one final look at the station that had been both prison and salvation for so many. The destroyer leader appeared on a view screen, its face twisted with rage. "You've doomed them all," it snarled. "Without us, they will destroy themselves." John met its gaze steadily. "Maybe," he said, "but it will be their choice, their future to shape." He turned his back on the screen and boarded the transport. As they sped away, the destroyer station grew smaller behind them. John looked around at the faces of his team, his allies, and the newly awakened humans. There would be challenges ahead, hard questions to answer, a new future to build. But for now, as stars streaked past the transport's windows, John allowed himself a small smile. They had done it, not through destruction, but through truth, through hope. The real journey was just beginning. The massive refugee fleet moved slowly through space. Hundreds of ships, carrying beings from dozens of worlds, all fleeing the collapsing destroyer empire. At the head of the fleet, the Avenger led the way. On the bridge, John stood quietly, watching the stars. It had been a month since their daring rescue from the destroyer station. A month of questions, explanations, and difficult decisions. Sarah approached, holding the datapad. "The last group of humans is awake," she reported. "They're scared and confused, but they're adapting." John nodded. "And the others?" "The freed alien races are working well together," Sarah said with a small smile. "Turns out, having a common enemy is a great way to build friendships." Mike joined them, his usual grin in place. "Who would have thought we'd end up leading a space refugee caravan, huh?" Before John could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Zara's voice came over the comm system. "John, we have a problem. A big one." John raced to the main view screen. His heart sank at what he saw. A massive destroyer fleet had appeared, blocking their path. "How did they find us?" Mike growled. Sarah's fingers flew over her console. "It's not just one fleet," she said, her voice tight. "They're closing in from all sides. We're surrounded." John's mind raced. They had come so far, freed so many. They couldn't lose now. "Options?" he asked. Zara shook her head. "We can't outrun them. And even with all our ships, we're outnumbered." For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then, a new voice spoke up. "Perhaps I can be of assistance." They turned to see one of the recently awakened humans. He was an older man, with kind eyes and a determined set to his jaw. "My name is Dr. Alan Reeves," he said. "Before the destroyers took us, I was working on a project. Something that might help us now." John listened intently as Dr. Reeves explained. The project was a device designed to interface with and control any technology. In theory, it could take over the destroyer ships. But it was never finished, Dr. Reeves said. And even if it was, someone would need to get onto the destroyer command ship to use it. John exchanged looks with his team. They all knew what had to be done. "How fast can you finish it?" John asked. Dr. Reeves straightened up. "With help? A few hours." John nodded. "You've got 2. Let's move, people." The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. While Dr. Reeves and Sarah worked frantically to complete the device, the rest of the fleet prepared for battle. Grok and his granite people reinforced the hulls of key ships. The whisper clouds spread out, ready to confuse enemy sensors. The Mirrorkin prepared to infiltrate enemy vessels. As the deadline approached, John gathered his team. "This is going to be dangerous," he said. "I won't order anyone to come with me." Mike laughed. "As if you could stop us, boss." Sarah nodded. "We're with you, John. All the way." Zara stepped forward. "As am I. My starborn abilities may be of use." John felt a lump in his throat. He didn't deserve such loyalty, but he was grateful for it. Dr. Reeves approached, holding a small glowing device. "It's ready," he said. "Good luck." John took the device, feeling its weight. The fate of everyone in their fleet, maybe the whole galaxy, rested on this little machine. No pressure. They boarded a small, fast ship. As they prepared to launch, John opened a channel to the fleet. "This is John," he said. "I know you're scared. I know the odds look bad. But remember why we're here. We're fighting for freedom, for the right to choose our own destiny. No matter what happens, know that your courage has already changed the galaxy. Now, let's show the destroyers what free people can do." Cheers erupted across the comm channels. With a deep breath, John launched their ship towards the destroyer fleet. The battle was chaos. Energy beams crisscrossed space. Ships exploded in silent bursts of fire. Through it all, John's small ship darted and weaved. Zara's starburn powers cloaked them from enemy sensors. Mike's piloting skills kept them from being hit. Sarah coordinated with the fleet, keeping the destroyers distracted. Finally, they reached the massive destroyer command ship. Using tech from the Mirrorkin, they slipped aboard undetected. They fought their way through the ship's corridors. John was impressed by how well they worked together. Humans and aliens united in purpose. At last, they reached the bridge. The destroyer leader was there, its twisted face filled with rage. "You," it snarled, "why can't you accept the peace we offer?" John stood tall. "Because it's not peace," he said. "It's control, and we're done being controlled." He activated Dr. Reeves' device. Energy surged through the ship. For a moment, nothing happened. John's heart sank. Had they come all this way for nothing? Then, the ship's systems began to change. Displays flickered. Weapons powered down. The destroyer leader howled in fury. It lunged at John, but Grok stepped in, his stone fist sending the alien flying. "It's over," John said. "Your fleet is ours now." Across space, destroyer ships stopped firing. Their crews stood down, confused by commands coming from their leadership. John opened a channel to all destroyer forces. "Your leader lied to you," he said. "There is another way, a way without conquest or control. Join us. Help us build a free galaxy." To his amazement, ship after ship signaled their surrender. Destroyers and their former slaves began to talk, really talk, for the first time. As John and his team returned to the Avenger, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They had done it. Not just won a battle, but changed the course of history. There would be challenges ahead. Rebuilding worlds, healing old wounds, finding a new home for humanity. But for the first time in a long time, the future looked bright. Sarah put a hand on his shoulder. "What now, Captain?" she asked with a smile. John looked out at the stars, at the fleet of former enemies and new allies, at the endless possibilities before them. "Now," he said, "we explore, we learn, we grow, together." The Avengers' engines hummed to life. Ahead of them, the galaxy stretched out, full of wonders and adventures yet to come. John smiled. Humanity had returned to the stars, and this time they would do things right. The end.